Hello and welcome to Culinary Jazz. I'm back. My name's Chef Ken. I've been away a while. We travel a lot. We live in Florida in a beautiful condominium right on the water in Florida, and we retired there about 5 years ago from Texas. And before Texas, we lived in Connecticut. So I'm a native of Connecticut. Just a quick little background. So I was a professional chef all my life, went to the Culinary Institute of America in the late 60s, and I've had a passion for cooking since I don't even know when, and I did it. Now I'm retired, and I'd like to give back a little because I found that any of these TV shows, no one really learns how to cook on them. They learn about how to do a game contestant thing and with weird ingredients that you never cook with, but basically how to cook. I was taught how to cook, and after years and years, I think I've got some experience and knowledge that I hope to convey to everyone out there. Because I think that is what's lacking. Is everybody reads a recipe, let me try this, let me try that. Be creative, do your own thing. That's where the jazz comes in. I grew up loving jazz, and if you know what jazz is about, you know you have a structure of music to start with, and then you go off and you do your own thing. That's jazz. Improvisation. Same thing with cooking, I think. You have a basic idea of something that you want to make and how it's made. You don't sit down there and read that recipe. You say, okay, here's the ingredients, the form of it, the structure, the base. Now, once I get that known, I can alter it, change it, change the tempo of it in music, change some of the ingredients, some of the preparation in cooking. In other words, so it's culinary jazz. And really, when you get to know what you're doing, you can do like a chef like myself did when you're working what's called a saute station in a restaurant where you have maybe 20 dishes a night that you're working on. And they're all different. And you have to have all these different ingredients for veal, scallops, clams, chicken, filet tips. You can have all these different items. And with all the different garnishes and ingredients that go with it, and you're turning around at a stove, and you're saying, I got 2 chicken marsala, I got one scallops, and I got a filet of sole, and you've got all these different things going. And they're all done within 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes at the most. Boom, 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 boom. You have to do them quickly. So that's real jazz, because you're just throwing stuff in. You don't have time to sit and measure and time things. You don't time anything. You don't set a timer for anything in the kitchen. You get an idea of how long it takes and keep an eye on it. And as they used to tell me in school, if you ever asked how long it took to take how long it would take till it's done, you'd get almost a pounding with a back of a knife on your hand or a spatula on your backside, and they'd scream at you. They say, scream at the top of their lungs. They say, when it's done. So I can't say it takes 12 minutes. That's like turkeys. How long is it? One of my pet peeves been for all these years, and now that Thanksgiving is just over. Years and years ago, when I, first started, I was cooking everything. But people would always ask me, you're a chef. I've got a 18-pound turkey. How long do I cook it? That's impossible to answer. I made a list. I think there's up to 15 different variants that you have to worry about. You can tell me the weight of the turkey doesn't mean anything. Was it partially frozen? Was it totally thawed? Was it room temperature? Was it stuffed? Was it not stuffed? Did that stuffing go in cold? Did the stuffing go in, you just made the stuffing warm and put it in? There's nothing wrong with that if you're going to cook it right away. And the type of oven you have, covered, uncovered, it goes on and on and on. And everybody's oven is different. Whether it's convection, whether it's a conventional oven. Most ovens are not calibrated correctly. So you have to worry about that. I could tell you 350 for X, and if your oven's at really at 330, it's not going to work. And the other thing is the professional ovens are way different from a home oven because they have a faster recovery time. In other words, like your thermostat on the wall, you set it at 70. It doesn't stay at 70 the whole time. It goes down to a preset, like say 68, then boom, it comes on again. Right? And then if it goes up to 71 or 72, it shuts down again. Same thing with your oven. You set it for 350. Depending on the make of the oven and the amount of BTUs it has, It could be, you set it at 350, it reaches temperature, and then it might drop down to 340 and pop back on. That could take 10 minutes. It could take 20 minutes, depending on your brand of oven. That all factors into it. So there's too many questions in time. You don't ever, time is until it's done. You have to know it, and that's basic knowledge. So what I want everyone to have is basic knowledge, which no one has anymore. No one. No home cooks have basic knowledge. They think they do because they follow a recipe. Not that. That's painting by number. You know, and culinary arts is an art. It's an art form. I know if I'm repeating a lot of this stuff for people out there. In any event, I'm back here. We're from Florida. We just spent, this is Monterey, California. We're just in Monterey, California, where my son and his family from Delaware flew out, and that my wife and I flew out, and my daughter and her family from Bothell, Washington, where we are now, and my beautiful kitchen away from home. One of my kitchens away from home. We all were down in Monterey with my second son's home and to have Thanksgiving together, which we did for the first time in a long, long time. We had a great time. Anyway, then we flew from Monterey back up here to Seattle, just north of Seattle in Bothell. And I haven't done a video in a long time because I tried at home alone, and I really need my daughter, who is my director and producer and my inspiration to do this. I think she held a gun to my head and said, "Dad, you're going to do this." So here I am. And it's unscripted. If you don't know anything about what I do on Culinary Jazz, it's unscripted. Just, I'm going to try to structure it so that we go from learning the basics all the way through to doing anything and everything. What I like best is bread, pastries, cake decorating, braised foods. I have a lot of different passions. One of my greatest passions, because I had the honor that every day I could go into my kitchen and think, what kind of soup do I want to make today? You know how many recipes I've had written down in my life? 40 years of cooking? 0. I don't have one written down. So I would go in and say, what do I feel like making? First of all, it's what you're going to make has a lot to do with what's left over. And that's what we're going to do today. We have leftovers. We're going to make a soup out of leftovers. But you have to have a basic knowledge of the soups, but there's so many different types. We're not going to talk about different types today. We're just going to talk about one basic, the most common soup, chicken soup. Whatever country or nationality you come from, they all make chicken soup. Asians do, Italians do. Jewish people love their chicken soup. Everybody likes chicken soup. It's healthy for you, and we eat a lot of chicken in this country, so we're going to make chicken soup. So this comes, you can think of a turkey in the same way. I know people had me over to their house through the years to try the turkey soup they made after Thanksgiving. So how did they make their turkey soup? They take a pot of water, they take a turkey carcass, which was overcooked to begin with, and dry as a bone. Now it's a day old and dry as a bone. They put that in the water, and they think they have some sort of a broth or a stock. No, sorry. And I know that as a professional. But you need a good stock. All right, so stock. Where do you get a stock? You can't make a stock from dried turkey bones. So I've got a stock going over here. It's magnificent. How did I come up with a stock when I don't have any bones or anything like that? Well, I had the rotisserie chicken. So we ate that rotisserie chicken last night. We had 4 adults and 2 little rugrats of mine that if I start talking about them, we won't even talk about cooking. But we all got fed. We had some leftovers. I made a little chicken salad today even out of it. And then I picked the carcass pretty clean. You could probably get a better job of picking it, but I picked it pretty clean. And I came up with, these things that and I had this much chicken meat left for soup. It's quite a bit. I may add some to it, I may not. But how did I get that stock, you might ask? Well, I cleaned up some vegetables, and I would recommend if you're going to cook a lot, I don't care what it is you're cooking, it makes sense to do what a professional chef does. We always have big 5-gallon buckets of peeled onions. You don't want to go grab an onion every time you want it and peel it. And, it took me less than 5 minutes to peel, I think, 8 onions. And I have enough for a week or whatever, depends on what I do. Carrots, you can have peeled carrots in water if you want. I rarely peel a carrot though, so I didn't do that. Celery is all clean. take the head of celery, cut the bottom of the stalk off, right? Rinse them off, clean up, take some of the hearts out. So I have the celery hearts, I have the onion peels, and I did peel some carrots, so I have some carrot skins left over, the peelings. And if you're gonna do that, this is for stock. The onion peels are for stock. The celery bottom and hearts are for stock. So I took all them and I threw them in. Now, chefs use Spanish onions. They're brown. I like those. The only thing wrong with those in stock is they will add color. So this chicken stock is not as yellow and clear as I would like, but I don't care. I want it to taste good. So you'll see the color of it. It's not dark like a beef stock, but all that color that's in there, if you can see it on the camera, is 100% from onion skins, which is a good thing. I worked with a lot of old German chefs and they love those onion skins to give color. Or they would take a half an onion and leave it on what we call the hot top. In other words, if you put a saute pan on low to medium and cut an onion in half, skin and all, and just threw it in there until it started burning slowly or caramelizing, and then you take that and you throw that into your stock, it's going to give you a darker color stock. All right, so stock is something you're going to need to have. So you can do that. My eldest son cooks a lot. He loves to cook. And he does what I told him to do, and what we used to do in the kitchen. We'd always have a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, you know, where pickles come in or something. Or you could have a small container, whatever container you have at home, something like this, some sort of Tupperware. And when you have these ends of the carrots, or the celery parts, or onion peels, you throw them right in the freezer. And then when you're ready, you just throw them in a pot and boil them up, and you got a vegetable stock. Or you put it in with whatever bones you have. So I was making that basically just with that, nothing else. I took whatever juice was left over from that rotisserie chicken and put it in there. And then when we got finished eating, I did take that carcass and put it in the stock to let it cook. Then I did what we have to do today, since we don't have a stock pot, is my daughter has all these bases here. These are better than bouillon. They don't pay me or anything up, but it is the best one out there. First ingredient is chicken, roasted chicken. Second ingredient, multidextrose, I think it's called. It's just a corn and potato starch that's used to help bind and thicken things. Not a big deal. There's really nothing bad in it. So they have chicken, vegetable, and beef. This one, the green one, is the roasted vegetable. Now remember that, because the vegetable stock I make is clear. It's not brown roasted. This is kind of brownish. It has tomatoes in it, which is fine. Now, if you're making a beef stock, you'd want tomatoes in it. The chefs we'd always say to the chef, what do I do with these? And we'd always have, on a big hot top like this, we'd always have at least 2 huge, 60 quart or 80 quart, I don't even forget what size they are, huge pots, stock pots. They even had a spigot on the bottom to let the stock out and strain it. But those big stocks, we'd always have a beef and a chicken, always. So we'd say, chef, what do I do with this? Stock pot. You over here all day. What do I do? Stock pot. Throw it in the stock pot. So you don't have the stock pots going, but you can build them up in the freezer. So you have stuff to make a stock from. When you're not going to have bones. You don't have bones anymore. Even restaurants, they don't have bones. We had bones in the old days because we butchered our own meat. We cut the bones off, the prime ribs, things like that. We don't have them anymore. So we have to depend on these bases. As long as you get a good one, if you see one, like those cubes or anything that says salt, you can buy your own salt for like 50 cents for a pound. Why would you pay dollars for salt? Because that's all it is. The worst ones will say like salt, corn syrup, and then chicken fat. And that's about it. It's not chicken. First one is chicken meat. So it's a good broth. Broth being meat, not just bones. We can go on about stocks forever. Broth versus stock. Anyway, you have to have something to start. You can't take that turkey carcass or this turkey carcass and put it in water and say, I've got soup. No, you gotta have this. So I put a little chicken stock in it, and it tastes delicious. It's really good. So I'm ready to go. So the first thing we're gonna start with, this is a fresh chef's knife or a cook's knife or a French knife, right? These right here, my daughter's got 2 of them. These are high cost, very high cost items. These cost about, do you remember what you paid for these, Katie? No?
They're yours.
Oh, they're mine. They were mine. I probably got them for free. Cisco, different companies would give them to you.
Those are yours.
If you go buy them right now, I think $19. It's a beautiful, it'll last you 100 years. I've had them last in the kitchen, used all day long, and they last. The only problem is you can't put a good edge on them. So as far as putting an edge on them, they'll come with a good edge. And then I suggest you get a steel. If you don't have a steel, get a steel. This is diamond edge on here. This does not ever sharpen a knife. Never. What this does is if you have a fairly sharp knife, or what we would do is we'd use it and we constantly, if I chopped all this for one batch of soup, I would then do this for, about 30 seconds to get the edge back on it. So it hones the edge is all it does. Sometimes you'd be surprised, you get little tiny cuts on there you don't even see. So you got to do that. So you get a steel, you get a cheap knife, or the last knife I bought, it's a French knife, it's a Henckels, Henkel Brothers, that's what I used to use most of the time. Henckels are Gustave Emile Ern, but I think Gustave went out of business. Sabatier, French, are very good, but they're going to cost you for the same knife as this, $150. You can get one like this, buy them for $50, but if you want a good one, it's $150. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. I can, it's like, why would I buy a Mercedes when I can drive a whatever, a car that'll do exactly the same thing for me for 1/3 the price. This will do the same thing for you, right? The other thing the old timers taught me was this. You hear this? It's an old Bible quote. It's called iron sharpens iron. This is the old days, old days, what they used to do to sharpen their knives. If they didn't have a stone, they would do this. All right, but you get yourself a whetstone, or these newer things they have, they're little flat, diamond studded, sandpaper type things. You can sharpen them on. You have to have a sharp knife. Okay, once you have that knife, you've got all different kind of knives. You've got, this is more like a filleting knife because it's flexible for filleting fish, doing different things. I'll tell you what, a chef will do every single thing he does in the kitchen with this most of the time. You have boning knives, paring knives, do all with this. But learn how to use it. First, going back to the basics here. Number one lesson, first thing I learned at the Culinary Institute was how to hold a knife. Pay attention. Index finger and thumb on the blade, never on the handle. Right? If you're going to be a murderer, maybe you do it this way. If you want to cut things on a table, you do this. Very, very important you do this. Watch this, very important. 3 fingers here, 2 fingers here, finger and thumb here. Why? Because knives turn on you. They will turn. Knives can turn on you. You hold it this way, they can't. You're sturdy, you know where it is. The other thing is, what you're going to do is, and you should practice this and learn it. Don't go around, like this with your finger on the tip of the knife going. Wrong. Learn to hold it. The next thing you used to do, and it's a little difficult to get used to, is 90-degree angle. I can still remember, I'm 72 years old, but I can remember when I first learned how awkward it was, because you kind of want to have your hands like this. That's natural. I play golf like this. I don't play golf like this, right? I play golf like this. Everything you do is like this, right? Play drums like this. You don't go like this. You have to get it at right angles. It feels awkward. There's a reason for it to be at right angles. When you're feeding food into your knife, right? Like this, and the most important part of anything I just said, your thumb. Hide your thumb. Most of the cuts, I'd say over 50% of all the cuts in the kitchen are on the thumb, because the thumb drags. As you move your hand back, you forget the thumb, because you have the blade against the knife against your knuckles all the time. 100% of the time, again, when you're chopping on the board here, guess what? I'm going to do this piece of celery so you see. Now, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm at right angles, right? My knife right against my fingers, right? I can see it's touching that. My thumb is way behind. Look at my thumb. It's a lot of space here. My thumb is not gonna get caught up in this. But as I do this, if I'm moving my knife, I'm gonna be moving back, right? And you get faster and faster and faster at it. But the main thing I wanted to tell you there is that I didn't do it. I forgot to do it. Was that I could be blind. It doesn't matter. Because I know the knife blade is, I know my hand is. I can chop as much as I want, wherever I want. I can't get cut. because I know where the blade is, I know where my hand is. All right, that's it for basic knife skills. We just do carrots are harder. Be careful of carrots, they will turn on you. You got to get a flat edge to start with. So now you've got a flat edge, you take part of it off so you have a flat edge, right? You got the flat edge, and then we can cut it into, depending on what size you want to make, right? This is what's called mirepoix. It's a French term that everyone uses all day in the kitchen. Mirepoix, carrots, onions, and celery. All right, and then we take these strips, and we go like that, and now we got 4 sticks, or 6 sticks, or 8 sticks. All right, then we just line them up, and we're gonna do the same thing. But I don't have to be looking at it. I can be looking at you and talking to you and get it done. I might have to look when I get to the end, but not a big deal. All right, so we got carrots, celery, now we're gonna do onions. Refrigerate your onions so you don't cry. If you refrigerate your onions, I cut an onion different than most. I was taught to do it this way, as you see, and root in the side, waste of time. This, I just go right through it, the other direction, against the grain of the onion, and then just start it this way. One cut there, and then I go. And you have a nice uniform dice that way. So easy, right? Very, very easy. And the reason we don't go scripted here is because I can just talk, especially if I have a little coffee. I'll take a little coffee, I drink a lot of coffee. And it's like, I call it ping pong. When you're talking about cooking, you're doing one thing, and it makes you think of something else. So you're going bing, 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 bing. So you're always talking about something. So these onions, no crying, no crying. There's no crying in cooking. Easy, right? Easy peasy, cheesy. So this is what's called a clear soup. It's not perfectly clear, of course. Perfectly clear would be called consomme. Consomme is the queen, the mother of stocks and soups. If you've never made it, we're going to do it. Maybe I'll do it while we're here in Washington. It's a bit arduous and a bit technical, but it's worth it. And just to real quickly, what you have to do is you get a stock. Most stocks, like this stock here, are somewhat cloudy. Especially beef are going to be cloudy. Consomme you want clear. It'll still be brown or whatever, yellow, whatever color you want it to be, but clear. So you have to have a clarification. I won't say much more except you have to make this raft up to make the clarification, but it's so good when it comes out. It's worth the effort. Again, I forgot to tell you, vegetables, I'm talking about mirepoix vegetables frozen. You don't want to make a stock with broccoli. What would happen if you made a stock with broccoli? Broccoli breaks up and it makes it ugly. Plus, I don't know if you want that flavor. Cauliflower, not as bad, but still, use your common sense. You're not going to put asparagus, broccoli, or cauliflower in your stock pot. Basically, it's just the 3 mirepoix. Garlic cloves, garlic, whatever, if you chop the end of garlic up or garlic skins, throw the garlic in there. If you have leeks, tops, anything like that. Anything that you can, with common sense, it's not going to cloud it and fall apart. Throw it in your stock pot. Stock pot also should contain some herbs. Bay leaves, thyme, peppercorns. But it's up to you. You can put none of them or all of them, or you can put chili peppers in there. I don't care. Just know that you have to do that. All right, so we got our stock. We got some of our mirepoix. I'll cut a little bit more. Take a little pause here. I'll have a cup of taste of coffee.